Hello, Michael here. You know I have a vision for changing the way we do real estate to better serve the consumer while creating a life and a business you love. So let me say congratulations on having joined us for the first 4 sessions of Business by Design. It's exciting to think about how you'll now be fully committed to your success by creating more appointments, winning customers for life, and converting open listings and FSBOs to exclusive listings. This next session with Tom is about planting seeds, nurturing relationships, and harvesting. And just like in farming, you have to do one before doing the other, so it's a process. We want to get rolling right away. Here's Tom to tell you how.
Welcome back to Session 5 of Business by Design. Today, we're going to talk about generating listings from a lead source called geographic farming. Now, this concept has been around for decades, and simply put, it's when you decide on a number of homes you want to market your services to become the trusted real estate advisor that they would turn to when it's time for them to list their home. So as I say that, it might immediately conjure up in your mind a set of communities or a few buildings that you've done transactions in where you want to get even more listings because you already have success there. So the basic concept is we're going to select a number of homes where you become the trusted advisor. For you to take advantage of this extraordinary listing attraction campaign, there are 3 keys that everyone must take on. Number 1, it's adopting the right mindset for a geographic farm. Number 2 is the selection of your farm and the building of your database. And then number 3, of course, is the marketing campaigns you choose to use to become that trusted advisor in that community. So let's spend some time talking about the right mindset that it's going to require to become a great geographic farmer. Could you imagine if someone you knew said, "I'd like to have a beautiful garden," and you and I both know exactly what that takes. But what if that person came to you and said, "I planted the seeds and I'm frustrated because the next day I was unable to have those beautiful flowers or the vegetables that they were looking to harvest"? You would probably scratch your head and say, isn't the basic concept you've got to plant seeds, then you've got to take some time and nurture and cultivate before eventually you can harvest? You see, a geographic farm is exactly like a garden. The more good seeds you plant, the more time you take to build relationships, to become the trusted advisor, to nurture and cultivate your connection with the people living in that community, the greater your harvest would be. So think about it. Just like having that beautiful garden, you can't plant a seed and the next day instantly reap the rewards. A geographic farm is just like that. This program desires a long-term, dedicated mindset from you, where you really are going to say to yourself, this is a community that I want to get all the listings from. I want to be the trusted advisor in that community. And to do that, the basic formula of planting seeds. Planting seeds is your direct mail, knocking on doors, doing geographic farms, handing out flyers, being a part of the community. Then the nurturing and cultivation. When you meet someone, adding them into your database, sending them emails, sending them special personal note cards, anything you can do to nurture the relationship. And when someone says, we're thinking about selling, whether it's in 2 months or 5 months or a year, your willingness to go above and beyond to establish a relationship with them, so ultimately you can get what you want, which is the harvest, and that is the number of listings you desire. So I cannot stress to you enough, I've watched hundreds of thousands of agents take their business to the next level, become one of the very best they can be all around the world when they adopt a geographic farm, when they take on this critical marketing component to your business. But I've also watched tens of thousands of agents fail because they simply couldn't adopt the plant the seed, nurture, and harvest mindset, that everything worthwhile takes a little bit of time. I'm going to assume that you are accepting the mindset, and now you want to talk about selection. A longtime friend and marketing guru by the name of Jay Abraham once said to me, "You could have a lousy product and market it to a great list and always do well." Think about that. We're talking about selecting your territory, the community, the number of homes that you want to market to. Selecting the right community is so important. In your case, because you've got an amazing product, an amazing service, you, as a great RE/MAX agent, you've got the right product. Now we need to make sure we've got the right list. So if you and I were sitting one-on-one and you said, "Tom, what community should I go after?" I'd ask you two questions. First, I'd say, can you think of where your last sales have come from? Were they in a specific part of town? Were they in a specific building or community that you could then turn to and say, I have a track record of success selling homes in this area? Something that we could build upon, because that track record, remember the advice from Google, experience and demonstrable ability to negotiate matters when we're trying to sell our services. So the first question is, can you look back in your career and say, where have I done a large number of transactions? Another way of looking at it is asking yourself, where would I like to do more business? What are the communities, the neighborhoods, the districts that I want to go into and become a wonderful, dominant, trusted advisor, someone that they can turn to as their agent of choice? So we need to answer those two questions, but there's more information we need before we ultimately choose. The second part of the selection process is to look at any data on housing in that community. For example, I have a friend of mine and a wonderful client who decided they wanted to market the community where I live. Here's the challenge. There's 450 homes, which that's okay. That's a good number of properties. But guess what? There's only 3 to 4 sales every year. So though the area is beautiful and the homes are fantastic, there simply isn't enough transactions happening in that area for this person to justify planting the seeds, cultivating and nurturing for a very small harvest. As you think about the territory you want to go after, as you think about the number of homes that you want to work to or go after in terms of your marketing, it's important that you can look and find, are there properties selling in that area? If there isn't a large number of homes selling, and it could be 5%, 6%, I've seen numbers as high as 10 and 11% of those homes sell every year. If there's a big opportunity, then we've got a better list. We've got a better farm. In the case of the community where I live, though there's a bunch of beautiful homes, not enough homes sell every year. So it doesn't matter how good you are, how great you are, there simply isn't a large enough number of transactions to justify going after this campaign. So number one is, where have you done business? Or where do I want to do business? But number two is, where are there sales taking place? If there isn't enough transactions, if there aren't enough homes being sold, then it's not worth your time. Step 3 in the selection process is for you to become an area expert. You see, to be a trusted advisor, you need to know the schools, the amenities of the community, whether it's the great restaurants or the shopping or the transportation in and out. The more you know about that community, the more you gain the trust. The more you know about who built the homes or when were the homes built and what style and who are the people that live there. You see, I'm a big fan of getting to know the community so well that you begin to realize the trends inside that community. For example, what if the average person there has only one child? What if they have 4 children? Knowing just those little subtle numbers, if you will, about your community makes you more of an expert. And it allows people to really see that you truly are that trusted advisor, that you've done your homework, you've studied the market, you know everything about the community, so if they were thinking about selling, of course they're going to call you first. Now, the last one, number 4, is to start small with a reasonable number of properties that you can manage. Now, you probably can't answer that without me giving you the marketing plan, which I'll be doing in just a few minutes. But I want you to be thinking, how many homes could I effectively get to know? I think of one of the greatest real estate agents I've ever met, a client, John, from Sydney, Australia. He started out with 250 homes, and inside that community near the rocks in Sydney, he was able to knock on every door in the community, and over the course of time, get to know every single person that lived in that community. And as he began to do that, which we'll be discussing in our marketing plan, he became the most recognizable agent in that marketplace. And of course, when it was time for them to sell, they chose him. I've watched other agents take on too large of a territory. And I understand from a marketing standpoint, they're taking the old concept of, I'm going to spray out this marketing and pray to the real estate gods that someone calls. That is an approach, and it works for some. But my experience is when you take on too much and you don't get deep into the relationships and connections with the people inside your community, you don't become that trusted advisor. So as we're framing this conversation, I want you to be thinking in terms of selection. Where have I sold homes? Or what are the communities I want to become the dominant agent in? Where is the turnover? Where are homes selling? That's really important in the selection process. The third part, where do I really know the market? I know the homes. I know the families. I know what's happening in this area. I know the restaurants, the schools. I know everything about the dynamics of the community. So I really am the local area expert. And then lastly, how many homes is it? And is it a manageable number where I can really get deep and get connected with as many people as possible to become that trusted source? As you look to make those decisions, the next part of that equation is the marketing plan. So let's talk about that now. We have a 6-part marketing plan that, when done monthly, will plant the right number of seeds, nurture and cultivate the relationships, and ultimately be the fastest way for you to begin to harvest and win the listings you deserve. So let's go through the 6 together. Number 1 is good old-fashioned direct mail. 1 to 2 mailers a month into that community where, just like your database, you're showcasing your recent listings, your recent sales, and market updates. Over time, people will begin to see your face, the RE/MAX balloon, and know that you're the trusted advisor in this community, especially when you're showing them recent listings and recent sales and bringing them market information. We know that today you can go to the market center and you can find all the marketing pieces you could ever need to make sure that you have a good flow of direct mail going into that community. The second part, and even more important in the nurturing process, is to go out and knock on every door in your community, ideally every 90 days. So let me say that to you again. I'm asking you to go out and knock on doors every 90 days. Every home in the community gets a connection from you. Now, what we know is half the time they'll never be there. And if that's the case, leaving your business card or perhaps a flyer about a home you have for sale or a buyer that you're working with that desperately wants to live in that community. Leaving these little pieces of information at their home, just like direct mail, makes you top of mind, which is what we want to create inside that community. When they're home, taking the time to get to know them, asking them the basic scripts that you see inside your workbook. How long have you guys lived at this address? Where'd you move from? And the big questions, the ones we want to ask everyone. Have you had any thoughts of selling? Or do you know anyone who's had any thoughts of selling? What you're going to find is as you knock on the doors and become a part of the community, people begin to reveal and share their plans. Maybe you see that their children are getting older and their kids are about to go off to university, and they may now be thinking about downsizing or perhaps even moving somewhere else or staying there forever. No matter what, we're going to capture all this data, all this information. Yes, I actually mean you might be walking with a notepad, and as you get to know another couple inside the community, that you actually write down their address, and you write down some of the key things that they share with you, their children, their goals, that they never want to move, that they've actually thought about selling, or they know someone who's thinking about selling. The more information that you are able to capture and then go back and put into your database on the people inside your community, the better. And by doing these activities, the more you do it, the more they get to know you, you get to know them, you remove the sales barrier, and you become the trusted advisor. Let's look at number 3. We've all heard the concept of holding open houses. We know that it's a wonderful way to expose the property to as many potential buyers as possible. In this context, when we're talking about your geographic farm, we're actually holding open houses slightly differently. Not only are we going to invite, obviously, every potential buyer to come by and see this home, we also want to invite all of the neighbors. Now, I've been teaching a concept called the mega open house for years, and it's wildly successful in terms of helping people find their next potential seller. So let me explain. You have a brand new listing, you're gonna hold it open. Rather than just doing traditional marketing looking for buyers, I'm gonna ask you to go knock on the doors and perhaps even send a mailer out to everyone in that community, inviting them to come preview the home, inviting them to come see the home. Now, many of my clients from around the world have taken it up a notch where they'll actually do a private lunch and sometimes a wine and cheese evening event to show the home to everyone that lives in the community. Now, there's 2 great benefits of this. Number 1, you're drawing in your geographic farm into a very intimate, fun setting where you get to shake their hand and make connections and maybe have a glass of wine and enjoy some food. More importantly, what happens while they're there is they start to ask you questions like this. Will this home really sell for X dollars? Or, gosh, my home's far better than this one. If this one's gonna sell for that much, my home is worth more. This is very typical conversations that take place when you invite the neighbors in to contrast that home for sale in their community to their own. Now, why is that a benefit for you? If all these neighbors are there talking about this home and what is it worth or what is it not worth and how fast will it sell, 2 or 3 always end up saying to you, hey, I'm curious, can you tell me how much my home is worth? Now, last time I checked, that is a listing opportunity. An opportunity for you to say, why don't I sometime in the next few days come over to your home, take a look at the property, talk to you about what homes are selling for, and then I can give you an honest assessment in terms of price, in terms of value. Again, plant the seeds, nurture and cultivate so we can harvest. So open houses done effectively in your community is a big opportunity for you to get deeper and more connected to everyone living there by simply inviting them into the open house and really getting connected. Number 4 is If there are any for sale by owners or open listings inside your geographic farm, you need to take our geographic farming plan and work them aggressively. The last thing you want inside your community where you're becoming the trusted advisor is to have a for sale by owner ever sell on their own. We really want that person to go FSBO and then list with you and get it sold. And now everyone in the community knows that they can try and sell on their own, but when they're serious about selling, you are the only option. Number 5 is to take a look at Facebook advertising. Today, we have tens of thousands of clients that are using Facebook ads as a way to expose their services directly to people living inside your community and throughout the city. If you haven't taken the time to learn more about Facebook ads, I would advise you to Google this afternoon or go to Facebook and see how much you can do at a very low cost to expose you and your services to one of the most popular platforms available today in terms of social media. Now, the last one, number 6, is very simply email marketing. Remember earlier when I said to you, I want you to go knock on every door every 90 days. It's imperative that as you're knocking on those doors, you begin to ask people for their email address, letting them know that you have information that is best sent through email, or that you like to do less mailers and send them the information in email format so they can share it with everyone else they know very easily. By doing this and creating and cultivating that list of email addresses, we're now able to do a more multi-touch campaign. Some direct mail, some email, doing open houses, knocking on doors, and maybe even throwing in some Facebook ads with the goal that, again, you become top of mind and the obvious choice for them to work with. So that's the essence of the geographic farming marketing strategy. I'm going to strongly recommend you take some time this week to look at where should you be farming and what's going to be the ideal marketing campaign for you. It's important as you select, can you knock on doors in that community? If you can't knock on doors, you're going to take away one of the most important strategies and marketing tactics to cultivate and create those relationships. So as you take the time this week to do your homework, let me remind you, 90% of all small businesses fail. 90%. You and I, we're 5 weeks into this training, and I know I'm putting the pressure on you to do things differently, to do more than you were perhaps doing before you took this training, and we're only halfway through. But remember, at RE/MAX, we are committed to selling homes faster, and we are committed to your success. And what we know is that what got you here simply will not get you where you want to go. So let's wrap up this week's session with a few activities. Before we do, I want to remind you that you made the decision to be committed to do whatever it takes to be successful versus the 90% that fail because they're only interested in doing what it takes. As you think about that commitment, here's some assignments for this week. Number 1, I want you to take the time to look at where you've done transactions in the past and where would you like to become the dominant agent. And make sure that you do some research in terms of discovering what is the turnover, how many homes are selling in that community, so as you select that territory that there are enough homes being sold every year where you can justify using this campaign to build and win more listings. Lastly, I just want to remind you that we're 5 weeks in, and this is about the time when the very best agents, you, begin to rise to the occasion, step up, do more, take even more action, and begin to align their behaviors to their real goals and mission. And A small percentage begin to start complaining, saying, I'm too busy, I've got too much going on, I can't do all this stuff. I want to remind you, 90% of people fail, 10% succeed. The 90% that fail use those kind of excuses. The 10% continue to persevere and push through to build their business by design. And I know where your commitment lies. I look forward to seeing you next week, even better than you are this week. Take care.